Welcome to Eagle Communications Channel 2. I'm James Holland. I'm the Executive Director of the Abilene Area Chamber of Commerce. And this is the new show for the Chamber of Commerce. You perhaps have seen me on other shows before. It's the same format, but we're going to name this one Abilene Means Business. And Dave, the cameraman, picked that name out, so kudos to him for that. He's shaking his head. No, I didn't. But anyway, yeah, and we're going to highlight some of the chamber members and the businesses and organizations and kind of give them an opportunity to share a little bit about what they do, how they impact the community, what they like about Abilene, what are some of the challenges. And so I think as we put the series together, I'm hoping certainly myself, our guests, and certainly you at home will get to know a little more about some of those things you maybe see every day but aren't aware that what really goes on behind some of the scenes. These great members we have here in Abilene. So we're going to kick off the series today with Bob Brazel. He's the Chief Operations Officer at Memorial Health Systems here in Abilene. And Bob, we're going to kind of just introduction, tell us a little bit about Bob the Man Brazel.
I'd be glad to. I was born and raised in Wichita, Kansas, and then I went to Oklahoma for about 20 years. And then after going to Oklahoma for about 20 years, Colorado for 5 years, and returned back home where I have lots of relatives in this particular area. I've been the past president of a couple state HR associations, et cetera, and I love human resources.
Okay. Yeah, and then so in Oklahoma, what was your job there before coming?
Sure, I'd be glad to. I worked at both an osteopathic hospital, so it was the largest osteopathic hospital in the world, and then also where I was the personnel director there. We called it personnel as opposed to human resources at that time. Yeah. And then I eventually got into the Columbia HCA system, and that was in Lawton, Oklahoma. And then I moved to Colorado to a very large hospital. We had 2,050 employees there,
oh, wow.
Swedish Medical Center.
Mm-hmm. Wow, and then so what brought you to Abilene?
Tell you what, I wanted to get back close to the relatives, and I have relatives all around me in this particular area. Yeah. And when I first interviewed at Memorial Hospital, I was literally just blown away by that hospital. I mean, they have such neat stuff there and neat people.
Yeah. What year was that?
That was in 2002.
2002. Okay.
Right.
So you got here shortly before I did. Then.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. So tell me a little bit about Memorial Health Systems. I mean, I think probably our viewers know that there's lots of different organizations that are part of it, but kind of talk, generally about the hospital and definitely mention at least some of the ancillary uses and functions you have out there.
Be glad to.
Yeah.
First of all, the big secret. Okay, our legal name is Hospital District Number 1 of Dixon County, Kansas. Who knows us by that? Yeah. We used to call ourselves Memorial Hospital, and then we started adding a lot of different components. And at that particular point in time, we got to thinking, well, let's see, maybe what we need to do is to call ourselves Memorial Health System. So, Memorial Health System, of course, right at the center would be Memorial Hospital, and we are a 25-bed critical access hospital. And in fact, I will tell you that we are in the top 3 in the state of Kansas. There are 87 critical access hospitals, and we are in the top 3. And we don't know if we're 1, 2, or 3, but they just tell us we're in the top 3.
Okay.
So then also we have home health and hospice, and all these units that I'm going to mention are kind of unique in the fact that home health and hospice they serve the second largest landmass county in the state of Kansas. And they're really, really big. They have 2 different locations, one in Abilene and then one in Harrington. And then we have Learn and Grow Depot. And that is our Child Development Center. And the Child Development Center is licensed for 100 children. And it is just a state-of-the-art facility. Then we have Village Manor. And Village Manor is our nursing home, and it's an 81 resident facility. And what's really so neat about that is the fact that it is set up on a resident-centered basis so that they have neighborhoods and the residents take care of each other, and they have a couple cats and a dog. Or we might be in the process of replacing a dog. We unfortunately did lose a dog just recently.
Oh.
But and then they have they have fish and they have birds, and the residents really take care of each other, and it's a family type atmosphere.
Sure.
Then we decided, and this is one that I really wasn't expecting when I came to Abilene, Impact Sports. Impact Sports, gosh, they must have somewhere around 600 people that belong there. And with that in mind, I mean, who would think that a town this size, 7,000 people would have 600 people, at Impact Sports? It's like a big 24-hour fitness center, but, it's not open 24 hours, but I mean, that's the way it's equipped. And so it's really, really good. Then in addition to that, one of the things that I think is most unique is, for instance, our pain management. Pain management is set up so that if you have a problem, and it's just not getting taken care of, you got several different ways to go. I mean, you can go. We could have a dietitian working with you, or a psychiatrist, or a physiatrist, which is ran by a physiatrist, and that is just really neat. But perhaps one of the neatest things is where the physicians were located at the Abilene Family Physicians Building and at 1111 Brady. We've consolidated that, and we now have them at Heartland Healthcare Clinic, which is in the remodeled part of the hospital. And see, we just went through this tremendous building program too, something like a $25 million program.
Yep.
So, when you look at a Heartland Healthcare Clinic, that one is just really neat, where we have all of our docs, they have their examination rooms, we have visiting physicians coming in, and the patients can turn to the left when they come in our front door. Boom, they're right into Heartland Healthcare.
Right.
They get the needs that they want to have taken care of, and shoo, you're just right across to either Memorial Hospital or the rehab department or pharmacy or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to figure out how to spell physiatrist. That's interesting. that one, yeah, it's kind of stumping. I've never heard that term before.
We have physiatrist and psychiatrist.
Yes,
and, yes.
Well, and just with the diversity of your operation, I mean, there's a lot of different types of jobs there, including physiatrists, which whatever it is that they do, and I will try to learn that later off the air here. But that must be a challenge in a town this size to find people with that much expertise. Or is there, and maybe this is a two-part question, but first of all, where do you find your people from? How do you find them? And then, is there like on the job training sort of things that you do that kind of adds to the skill level of the people that we do have here?
Tremendous.
So how does that work?
Tremendous. Boy, you just opened the door here. We have we have like 125 different occupational specialties we figure there at Memorial Health System. And if you stop and think about it, it's a whole city of occupations. I mean, where we have accountants, we have chief financial officers, we have, of course, the RNs, the LPNs, the certified nurse assistants, but we also have the physical therapists and the people that work in the business office, et cetera, and the human resource people. And to answer your question, it's all different as to where you recruit them. Now, we do a lot of electronic advertising. We do that, through a link in Salina, and then also one at the Kansas Hospital Association. But then in addition to that, we do a lot of paper advertising, et cetera. Now, it just depends on the person that you're looking for.
Right.
If you're looking for someone that is at a director's level, well, then, you're probably going to advertise throughout the entire state. If you're looking at someone that, would be, say, a CNA, a housekeeper, a dietary worker, well, then you're going to have more localized advertising. And with all these things, you have to make sure that you're competitive.
Oh, yeah.
External competitiveness is very, very important. And the way that we check this, and we do it twice a year, is we check it with the Kansas Hospital Association, to where they survey some 125 hospitals. And we look at both minimums and midpoints and maximums for our grades, and then we have all of our grades set up. And with that in mind, once we get that process finished, then you have to look at internal equity to make sure, that the proper families are set up and we're paying the right things there. So, there's a whole variety of things to go through that process.
And I know a lot of large employers, especially if they experience turnover, and not necessarily in the medical field, but just kind of a lot of the big employers as it is, they're starting to recognize that turnover becomes more costly than actually becoming an employer of choice. And so what are some of the things that Memorial Health System does? I mean, you talked about how you go about recruiting, but once you've got somebody, or what is it in the package that makes people say, well, if all other things being equal, this is the place to go.
Exactly.
And how do you set yourself apart in that way?
Perfect. Glad you asked that question. Okay, so what we do is salaries attract, benefits retain. So, when I first came here, I thought maybe we'd have, 12, 14, 15 different benefits. We have 33 that we list, and that's what we put on a matrix to show our new employees coming in. So that retains. Plus the fact that, we do a lot of customer service training to where we treat our customers correctly, and by the same token, in doing that, part of our customers is as employees, so they become a job family, and that's why we call them. Healthcare champions. I mean, and they really are. They're doing a wonderful job providing health care in this particular town, and so therefore we set up things like the Service Excellence Committee. How do you make sure that you're doing the right thing at the right time, and if you don't, and sometimes you won't, well, then you have to make some changes, and then the next time you do it in a better manner. And then the Employer of Choice Committee. Well, there's always room for improvement. No matter what you're doing, you stop and think about it. You can do something just a little bit better.
Sure.
And that's what the Employer of Choice Committee is all about. So we do that, and we're looking at different organizational structures sometimes, and we're just right on the cutting edge.
Yeah. Well, and I know nursing is one area where there seems to be, in recent history, there's certainly been a lot of job growth for CNs, CNAs. That trend is not, just looking at demographics, it's not likely to change. So if someone's out there and they're thinking about, maybe that's a field I want to get into, how does somebody go about doing that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I had mentioned how many employees we have. I mean, so that we have 125 different occupational specialties. And in that, we have some, let's see, it's 422 employees. About 250 of them are full-time. And with this in mind, you have people that say, okay, what do I want to do? Could I get into the medical professions? And I think it's the best profession you can possibly get into. But of course, I'm a little biased in that area, but by the same token, the way that you get into it, you stop and think, okay, I might want to be a physical therapy assistant at some point in time. Well, okay, so you talk to the director of physical therapy, and you talk to the schools, etc., and maybe even they would let you follow them around. You'd have to sign certain HIPAA statements, etc.
Sure.
But this way you can kind of see what it's really like, and that's the way you get started in that. So then you stop and think, well, this kind of can get expensive. So then we have things like scholarships. And the scholarships are kind of neat in the fact that, we have a scholarship committee which is set up of the CEO, the CNO, myself, and a board member. And we have individuals that apply for the scholarship. And let's say on a nursing, an RN scholarship, our $1,000 would be matched with $2,500 from the state of Kansas. And we would do that for a period of 2 years, and then they would come back to Memorial Health System, and we would have a nurse, and they would have a new occupation. And once you become a registered nurse, there's so many different ways to go, and all these things, you just have career ladders. Recently, we had a young lady in human resources that started 4 years ago, and she was a secretary, and then she became a human resources coordinator, and now she's a human resources director.
Okay.
So, it's really cool.
So there is some upward mobility in
Absolutely.
some of the positions that you have. And,
Absolutely.
And that's kind of, it sounds like kind of like the Army, when you go out and get your degree, if they've paid for it, they want your service for a certain number of years. But that's a good way to foster that, and I'm sure it's very competitive, given some of the other health systems that are and hospitals that are close. So what's the biggest challenge in that case? I mean, because obviously you're doing everything you can to be the employer of choice in this area for those.
Well,
so what are the challenges?
Some of the best recruitment actually comes from people that already work there. They tell their friends and they say, hey, this is really, my dream job. This is something that is working quite well for us. And you mentioned the military. A lot of management is set up on the military, and it so happens that we have our chief executive officer is a retired lieutenant colonel. That's
Sure.
Mark Miller,
Yeah.
and so there's and it's just neat to follow him. He goes in a lot of different directions, and it is cool. So everyone has an opportunity to do what we really want to do.
Sure.
And when it comes to recruiting and retaining people, like the CNAs, we must have probably 80 CNAs and full-time CNAs. And a lot of them are at Village Manor. And Village Manor is kind of interesting in the fact that as a nursing home, if you have graduated from a CNA program and you come to work for them, within 1 year after graduation, they're going to pay your fees that you paid in order to become a CNA.
Yeah, that's good.
And so they're just neat stuff like that to get involved with. And if people drop by Human Resources and they talk to the Human Resource Director, they can tell them about these things, and I think they'll walk out really excited, and there'll be a new vision about things that they can do that they never dreamed they could do.
Sure, sure. And I think I don't know the numbers. I haven't seen them in quite a while, but probably second largest employer in the county.
That is
Memorial Health System's probably next to Russell Stover maybe, or some others. Pretty close. One of the top two for sure. But I can't remember what the breakdown is, and you probably don't know off the top of your head how many of those people live in Dickinson County and Abilene. But I'm sure it's a very, very significant number, very significant impact on our community. What would you say your employees think of Abilene as a community?
Well, I think they love it. They're probably just like me in the fact that this is where they want to be. But if you look at just the dollars that we have in payroll, we have
Right.
some $44 million as a churn factor. That the Chamber of Commerce talks about churn factors for money, and they say that it's a multiple of 3. So if we have a $14 million payroll, you multiply that by 3, that's a lot of money that potentially could come back into Abilene.
Right.
Now, some of these people do not live in the Abilene area, so we have to kind of put some of those aside. But look at the churn that we have. I mean, this is very, very important to this economy, and it's one of the jewels, quite truthfully. I mean, you look at the Eisenhower Foundation, and you look at the school system, et cetera. Neat stuff, but I was going to say Memorial Hospital fits right up there too.
Yeah, well, the churn or the multiple factor you're talking about, to lie with statistics, I've seen those numbers. $8 spent in the community turns over 8. I've heard every number from 3 to 10. But I mean, it is obviously a very big impact. So that's now I understand. Heard through the grapevine. Actually, I think you told me that there's some significant changes coming in your life.
In my life, yes, very definitely. On January the 11th, 2016, at 11:11 a.m., I'm going to retire. And after spending nearly 40 years in the healthcare business, you work toward retirement at some point, and it's going to be big for me to really step away from something that I love doing. My children ask me, are you sure that you're going to retire? And I says, yes, I'm going to retire. And they say, well, we'll believe it when it happens.
Right,
but
yeah.
it really is going to happen. And so I'm in the process of actually advertising my position here as a chief operating officer, probably starting, within the next week or so. So, certainly before the 1st of August. So with that in mind, that takes care of half of my position, and the other half was the human resources side, and that position is already filled, at this point, with Andrea promoting up through the ranks. So we're going to live in Abilene. We really, really love Abilene. It's a good place to live. Low crime rate. You look at, for me, Masons is important. The Rotary is important. The hospital's important. As I get older, it's going to become more and more important, but not necessarily to work there, but to go get my services there. So I'm about a half mile from the hospital.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and knowing you personally, I know that even though he retires, you're still going to see him around everywhere, right?
Absolutely.
And so your volunteer efforts in Rotary and Masons and those types of things, I'm sure that'll increase here for a little while. You'll probably,
Without a
you'll
doubt.
probably be in retirement, sit at home, go, okay, I got to go do something, and we'll see you out there doing something. So that's wonderful. So
Another secret thing, I want to try to get into that pool team that plays at the senior center all
You
the
know,
time.
yeah,
If I
yeah.
can just earn my way in
I
there, I'd
know,
like to do that too.
yeah,
So you
gotta
might see
earn-
me in that
You
picture
got to
in the
earn your
newspaper.
way in
I
there.
know it,
lad.
I know it.
That
They're
doesn't
good.
happen really easy. They're pretty cutthroat down there at the senior center. You got to watch out. But anyway, well, Bob, I appreciate
James,
your time.
thank you.
And
Thank you.
Congratulations on a career that spanned 4 decades, right? So
It did, and
Yeah.
I wish you and the Chamber of Commerce the absolute best. I've been a board member in the past, and I totally believe in you. Best
yeah.
of luck.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much.
You bet.
All right. Well, that kind of wraps up our first show, and thanks once again to Bob Brazel, Chief Operating Officer at Memorial Health Systems, kind of giving us a breakdown. And they are, of course, a chamber member as well as their affiliates, which there were many mentioned during Bob's visit. So yeah, they're very important to this community. A lot of, probably nearly everybody in town at one point uses their services, and they're just really important to the community, the chamber, and the surrounding areas. So we just want to, as a chamber director, appreciate all that you guys do for the community,
Thank you.
and appreciate the investment that you've made in Abilene. I think with healthcare as it is and some of the bigger facilities, it's nice to see investment in our small towns to make sure that we have the quality service that they have elsewhere. So it's a very good thing. So thank you again.
Thank you, James.
Okay. This has been Abilene Means Business, the TV show of the Abilene Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm Executive Director James Holland, your host, and we will see you next time.